All right, so for our geometry unit, we are going to start with plane geometry, which is looking at points and lines. So geometry starts with a point. So here we just have a point shown right here, and it's labeled A. So we would call this point A. All right, so it's like a starting position. And we always use a capital letter to name a point. Next, we're looking at a line. A line is composed of an infinite number of points. All right, so this line is full of points, all in a row, and you can select any 2 points on this line to give it a name. So in this case, we have points A and B labeled on this line, so we would call this line AB. The other thing to notice here is that there's arrows on both ends. Okay, so we were looking at the line. This line is called AB, and on top of it is a line with 2 arrows. Okay, so this means it's a line which is arrows on both ends, meaning it goes in both directions and it'll continue infinitely. When we have a line segment, this is a part of a line, but it has 2 definite endpoints, right? So see here and here, it ends. There's no arrow. There's 2 definite endpoints for a line segment. All right, so this is a line segment. It's still AB, but it's just a line on top. There's no arrows on the ends. And lastly is a ray. A ray has a endpoint on one end and an arrow on the other end. That is a ray. So it says here when we select a point on a line, this is the midpoint of the line, which divides a line into 2 half lines. So a ray is either of these half lines, including the point that we selected. All right, and next is parallel lines. Parallel lines are going to be 2 lines, like shown here, that are equidistant apart at all times, meaning the distance between the 2 lines will always stay the same. And it's represented like this. So if this is line 1, this is line 2. We can say line 1 is parallel to line 2 by showing these 2 slashed lines. Slashed lines, it just basically means that line 1 is parallel to line 2. And the last term here is the word congruent. So you'll see this word quite a bit in math. When we use the word congruent in math, it means that 2 figures are equal in all respects. All right, meaning their angles are going to be the same and their measurements will all be the same. All right, so if we look at this line XY, sorry, it's a line segment because it has endpoints. So line segment XY, and if we look at this line segment MN, they're both 3 decimeters and 3 decimeters. So we can then state that XY is congruent to MN because they have the same length. And that symbol looks like an equal sign with a squiggle on top. So next we're going to look at angles. So an angle is defined as 2 rays that converge at one point. So here we have a ray and here we have a ray, and they meet together or converge at this point B. That is called the vertex. All right, or the amount of turn about a point, which is the vertex. So when we name an angle, we use this symbol, and we use the 3 capital letters. So in this case, it would be ABC, but the vertex is at point B, so that will always be in the middle. The middle capital letter is always associated with the angle or the vertex. And then we express angles using the unit degrees. So you'll see this little 0 symbol or O symbol as a superscript, and that represents the angles. 360 degrees is 1 complete rotation or revolution or a circle. And you can use a protractor to measure and draw angles. And here are just some examples of some angles. We have the 35 degrees, this is 65 degrees, and this one is 145 degrees. Some angles are given special names in math. So anytime you have a 90-degree angle shown by this little square, that always represents 90 degrees. Okay, so a very important angle here is the 90 degree or the right angle. A straight line is also called a straight angle. It is 180 degrees. So very important here, whenever you have a straight line, the angle is 180 degrees. You can think of it as 90 plus 90 as well, if you remember it that way. Next is an acute angle. This is any angle that's going to be less than 90 degrees. Obtuse angle is going to be greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. And a reflex angle is going to be greater than 180 degrees, but less than 360 degrees. All right, so those are the angles that have the special names. So make sure you do know those names and what they look like. All right, so next we have the adjacent angles. These are any two angles that have a common vertex and a common ray. So angle X and angle Y, they have a common vertex right here. They also have this common ray. So these two angles would be called adjacent angles. Next is complementary angles. These are two angles that will always add up to exactly 90 degrees. So for example, 40 and 50, they would be two complementary angles. 40 plus 50 equals 90 degrees. Another example could be 30 and 60. They add up to 90 degrees, therefore they are complementary angles. Next are supplementary angles. These are any two angles that add up to 180 degrees. So this example, 60 plus 120 adds up to 180 degrees, so therefore they are supplementary angles. Next, we're looking at a linear pair of angles. These are two adjacent angles. So again, they have a common vertex, common ray, and they add up to 180 degrees. All right, so straight line here, it has to equal to 180 degrees. So angle Y plus angle X gives you 180 degrees. Next are opposite angles. So congruent angles formed when two lines intersect. So the intersection of these two lines, therefore these two angles are opposite angles and they are the exact same. And this angle and this angle would also be the exact same, shown by the closed dot. Next is this special line. It's called the transversal. All right, so we have two lines here, and this special line is crossing or intersecting both of these lines. So when you have a line that intersects two or more lines, it's called a transversal. So this line is the transversal. So after there's a transversal, we have these special names of these angles. There is the interior alternate angles. Interior meaning on the inside. So these are angles that are formed when a transversal intersects two lines. If the lines are parallel, so these two are parallel, then the alternate angles will be congruent, meaning the same. Okay, so this angle will be the same as this angle, and this angle X is the same as here. All right, and we also know that this angle would be the same as this angle because they are opposite, and this angle would be the same as this angle because they are opposite. And next are exterior alternate angles. These are angles formed when a transversal intersects two lines. The lines are parallel, then the alternate angles are congruent. These are external, so on the outside. So this angle O and this angle O are exterior alternate angles, and this angle N and angle N here are exterior alternate angles. And lastly are corresponding angles. These are angles formed when a transversal intersects two lines. And again, if these two lines are parallel, then the corresponding angles are congruent. All right, so this angle here and this angle here are corresponding angles. This one and this one, N and N, X and X. So it's basically taking all of this here, and they're the exact same.